So the idea of mind science, it says you shift your mind science to, you shift your mindset to, you know, when you spend $5, don't spend it like it's your last, spend it like it's, like spend money like you've got money. That's one of my attitudes. Spend money like you've got money. So that $5 is a hologram of, let's say, infinite supply, rather than spend it like it's one half of what I've got. So the mindset, mind science helped me to shift my mindset about prosperity. Even if you don't feel you have it in the bank, you can develop a mindset. You go acting as if, learning how to act as if. So with success, eventually what happened along the way, mind science, I practice a collage, that is drawing a figure of a record storage shelf, and then drawing blank spines of record. And then I would write in imaginary titles of records that I had produced. So I was getting in touch with the idea of seeing my records on other people's library. That's called Beyondic. Imagine if you were a success, what would it look like in the world? People would have your records, CDs, you would turn on the radio and hear your music. So you start practicing what it would be like to be successful. So that's shifting your mindset and aligning yourself to what it's like to be successful. Get into that state and projecting yourself and imagining, pretending, acting as if. And if you're in a life situation with someone else who thinks you've lost it, you have to really rethink, you know, why are you doing it like that? You know, you can. And I did this, and without knowing who Brian Eno was. And somehow Brian Eno showed up in my life shortly after I was doing these exercises in mind science. It says, don't pray for something specific. Pray for the right, you know, the right transportation, the right producer. That's what, and Brian Eno shows up. I never knew of Brian Eno. And
had no idea who he was.
Yeah, and so it happened to be the right producer for launching me onto the next level. So the idea of learning how to pray for the right without filling in too much detail, and finding the right transportation, finding the right residence. You know, I want to live in a condo in Valhalla. And, because you can go specific if you want to, or you could say, I would like the next right residence. And you might find that the next residence is in Harlem. What yeah, this is right for your evolution. This is where you need to be. And so when we plan specifically from our limited sense of what's going on, we'll create more limitation or a container to perpetuate our limitations. But when we let divine collaborate through us, and the divine design says, you're ready to be there, because that will take you where you need to go and where you don't yet understand you want to be. So the mind science, imagination, creating collages that represent where you want to be, where you want to go. So now I look at my library at home of my records, and that looked like what I was drawing years ago. My records up there with the spine sticking out. And a realization comes over. Okay, it's time for me to visualize the next place I want to be or what I want to do. But my primary visualization is to ever deepen myself as this conscious channel of the divine right where I am.
And I have to jump in for a moment, as Laaraji was saying about Brian Eno's appearance, and he had no idea who he was, and that launched a very putting him into international spotlight for a number of years. About 5 years ago, Brian did a series of lectures in Manhattan, and the big culminating event was Brian Eno at Cooper Union. And we were his guests, among others, that night. Packed house at Cooper Union, standing room only, people still streaming outside hoping they could get in. And early into Brian's talk, and he's showing slides of his early boyhood, the humble beginnings, all of this. And at one point, and Laaraji had stepped out of the auditorium to put money in the meter, and then they flash on the screen Laraaji, and Brian says, and then this orange being entered my life and my whole world changed.
That's how Brian
describes Laraaji.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And it was such a beautiful moment, and I remember sitting there like in the first or second row with his lady and thinking, oh my God, I hope he's in here to see this tribute that Brian's paying to him in front of these thousands of people. And what it said to me is this quality that I have witnessed in Laraaji over and over of humility and recognition that humility isn't about being humble, but it's about being balanced, and it's also the term right-sized, keeping your ego right-sized. And that's it's something that I always am in awe of, Laraaji's capacity to be right-sized. Sometimes your original question of this seeming detachment that could be perceived by some as apathy is part of that same construct. Humility, right-sized thinking, not thinking yourself too big for or too little of. And that's a part for young people and esteem that's essential. I see too many young, brilliant people who question themselves so much, and it breaks my heart. It's like, oh my God, look at what you who you are, what you bring. Don't put so much emphasis on those things that you think you're deficient in. Focus on your strengths, build on them. Don't focus on what you perceive as your weaknesses. Self-love, self-acceptance, all of that. If without that, the creative process is totally hamstrung. If you cannot love what is coming forth through you, then your own creativity is a fraction, if that, of your potentiality.
If you can love what's coming through you, this is how you can trust that what's coming through you is beautiful, is bliss-oriented, and can support your tribe, your community in a positive way. How do you know that? This is a feeling. If it feels good for you, and you're getting feedback from your community, your tribe. I gotten feedback on the zither earlier that I didn't realize how much people were getting from my zither. I was getting a lot and sharing a lot. But the hammered work, and I heard people were going into trance. I said, what? You are? And so taking feedback helped me to trust that what I was offering was of value. So learning to accept. Also in the Washington Square Park where I was playing, there was a group of Eastern musicians playing mandolin. They were the old crew. One time, one of them came up to me and says, I listen to your music. You go, plinkty, plinkty, plinkty. I don't hear no melody.
Where is this?
Yeah, this is in Washington Square Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't hear no melody, just plinkty, plinkty, plinkty. And then Brian comes along and says, I like what you're doing. That's ambient.
Oh, and that was the other part that was so amazing. Until Brian connected with you you had never even heard the term ambient. He had to work very hard to try to explain to Laaraji what this word ambient meant, which was wonderful because why? Because our minds play a game on us, and they try to compartmentalize everything. At least a big part of what Laaraji comes through him is not compartmentalized. It's part of that vastness. So to label it as ambient was like, what? What? Label it as New Age. What? Don't label it. Don't label yourself.
They label it just so they can categorize it as
Exactly.
a genre on a record store or on Spotify.
Exactly. And that what
Yeah,
that easy and effortless flow is one of the teachings in Course of Miracles.
Yeah.
In Course in Miracles, it's said that if what you are attempting to do doesn't feel easy and effortless, then it's not meant to manifest at that moment.
Yeah.
So don't knock your head against the wall.
Hare, Hare, Hare.